everyone, I'm Jenna.
And I'm Mark. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Cincinnati Zoo Tales. Jenna, it's just you and I today.
It is. It's just us. It's spooky season is ending.
I know.
I'm so sad. This is our last spooky season episode.
Yeah, it's been funny. It's been fun though. Like these kind of spooky creatures, as we call them. We're trying to break the stigma of why these animals aren't spooky at all. But this like spooky creature segment, it's been fun for the last couple episodes.
I agree. I like it. I think there's some of the ones that people know the least about, and we can hopefully change some minds about these animals. Today, I don't know, I don't think they have the animals we're talking about, I don't think have as much of a stigma around them as snakes or spiders.
Yeah. I think snakes and spiders are probably the big two that people really dislike, right?
Yes.
Yeah, which hopefully we change people's minds,
yes,
but...
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think we were successful with spiders as much as snakes, according to comments and feedback I got. My sister is still afraid of spiders.
Okay.
So.
Maybe that just means next year we do 2 spider episodes. We double up on spiders.
Throw it all at you guys. I was actually at a cabin in Brown County this past weekend, and we were trying to decide like who was staying with my family, who was staying in which room and whatnot. And I was in the basement room with my family. It just made the most sense for us, bed-wise and whatnot. And we moved like a couch a little bit to like make it this space for my toddler. And behind the couch there were like 4 spiders. And
did your sister see them?
No. So, and then I moved a pillow, and there was a pretty decent sized wolf spider on one of the like bed pillows.
Oh no!
And I won't lie, it like I was like, sleeping doesn't sound as like comfortable now, but I like went and put it outside or whatever.
I'll say, what was your solution? What'd you do?
Yeah, just put it outside.
Put them outside. Yeah.
But I went upstairs and told my family, I was like, you guys will probably be glad that I took the basement bedroom because I'm not sure any of you would be sleeping tonight. I just found a wolf spider on the pillow. The ones on the ground I just kind of left. But the pillow one had to go. It could not sleep with me. I wasn't going to let that happen.
No, that's fair. But like kind of like we talked about on the spider podcast, though. As long as you're just putting them outside, let them be where nature is. You don't need to kill them and smash them or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm fine. Here I am.
Here you are. Still here.
Anyways, today we're going to talk about vultures.
Vultures.
Which we both love.
Yeah, absolutely. We both love vultures. Vultures are such cool animals. I'm really excited for this episode.
I think I forgot that we have black vultures in our bird show. But here in the Africa department, we take care of 2 different species, the Ruppell's griffon vultures and the Lappet-faced vultures.
Yep. And then across the way, we've also got Andean condors, which are in the vulture family as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a few different species here. So we'll probably primarily talk about our African species. But first, we'll kind of go over the reasons that we've read about or heard that people probably don't find them as lovable as we do.
Yeah.
And go over some of those myths about vultures. But they are incredible animals, so we hope you all will change your minds about them today.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of those stigmas that we kind of run into as we're like just scouring online, seeing what people think about vultures, but also that we've come up to us by like friends and family members that have said stuff about, obviously we went through the same thing with the spiders and the snakes, but kind of like the feedback that we get on vultures as well. Jenna, the first thing that I probably hear is they're nasty. They eat dead animals. Like, that is gross. That is disgusting. What would you say to someone who says vultures are nasty? I don't want them around me. I don't want them around my environment. Like, they're disgusting.
You know, the honest truth is vultures are so important and actually keep everything much cleaner.
Yes.
So they have a really important role in our ecosystem, and that is to dispose of decaying carcasses. So animals that get hit on the side of the roads, which is actually happening more and more often these days because there's less habitat and animals are coming in contact with
and more cars than ever.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
So you might see vultures on the side of the road here in the States consuming a carcass, but they have all sorts of special adaptations to help them do that. And because of it, they're actually stopping the spread of bacteria and diseases that could make us really sick.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more information that we can go into about that. One of them being that they can actually consume this bacteria because of really strong acid in their stomachs and their digestive systems. And I've even read that they have possibly some immunity to certain bacteria.
Yeah, I've read that as well, yeah.
But they can actually even consume like anthrax and botulism, I believe. Like things that would be really scary to us, they are able to consume and keep from spreading. So
exactly.
You can think of them as like the environment's cleanup crew that help keep, or like sanitation crew, I guess, help keep everything cleaner.
I always kind of think of them as like nature's garbage men, right?
Yeah.
Like garbage men might not get all like the glory for their jobs and what they do, but like I don't think any of us would be happy if garbage just piled up on our street for weeks on ends, right?
Exactly.
Like that's what the vultures are here doing for us. They're making sure that all those diseases, like you mentioned, they're not just spreading throughout the ecosystem.
Right. So they have a really, really important role, and we should all thank a vulture. Like they are so important. And another reason that they kind of like are cleaner than I think people realize is most of them have like very few feathers on their heads, so they're bald. And a lot of the things that, or a lot of reasons that's helpful is it can actually, any like meat or guts or different parts of the animal that they're eating that are on top of their heads can dry out in the sun and also not collect bacteria and tons of little feathers.
Yeah.
And kind of, it just keeps them cleaner that way. But I think that's one of the reasons they also look a little bit less cute, for lack of a better word.
That
like
was one that I got
bald.
too, is like not just the fact that they're nasty because they eat dead things, but also just they're ugly. Like people don't think they're visually appealing, which like personally I vehemently disagree with that. I think they're really gorgeous birds, and I love the coloration of the bald heads, but the bald head does kind of give people like a weird look maybe if you haven't seen one up close before. But like you said, like it's making sure that any fluid or blood as they eat a carcass, it's not accumulating on their skin and just kind of drying out there.
Right. It makes cleanup for themselves easier. They can't wipe themselves down with the washcloth afterwards. So but I think if people follow along on the Instagram story and hopefully Facebook, you'll see like some close-up videos and pictures of our vultures. And of course now the ones that Mark and I take care of are African species. So they're not the ones you're likely going to see, or you're not going to see them around here unless you're at a zoo. But, so they look different, and they have bigger heads and, different
features,
yes. But like our Lappet-faced are actually really colorful and pretty, and then the Ruppell's griffon vultures are just like cute. I don't know, they have like teeny tiny little white feathers all over their heads, and they're just like a really, I think, cute looking.
They're that really pretty like silver color too. Their coloration's gorgeous.
Oh, I've never thought of it as silver. I'll have to relook at that.
I always think they're silver. Like some people call them gray, but they've got like a silver.
And I
color
call them
to
white.
it.
That's so funny. But yes, check out some cool pictures of our vultures. Hopefully, you can look them up anytime, like on the internet, of course, but we're going to be sharing some extra pictures.
Yeah, but kind of along with like what you're mentioning about how the bald head helps them cut down on diseases. It's funny because people think they're nasty because they eat rotting things. Vultures, obviously, because in order to prevent themselves from getting disease or getting anything like that, they're actually extremely clean birds, which I don't think people realize at all. Like, you will see vultures preen themselves, which preening is kind of like the grooming that you'll see birds do as they kind of ruffle their beaks through their feathers and make sure that their feathers are all in good condition. Vultures preen really frequently, and they're very clean. Our vultures, we see them take baths. Yeah. Like, our vultures are getting in a little water tub and bathe in the tubs.
Take a bird bath, just like you might see a songbird do.
Exactly.
But it's much bigger.
Exactly, yeah. They're actually really clean birds, which I always think is interesting because they're trying to prevent themselves from getting any of the bacteria or diseases that are inside the carcass that they're feeding on. But another one I get is, well, we just read this one. I'd actually never heard this one before. But we just read a big article about how people think that vultures are bad luck.
Which, I mean, I don't know where that came from.
I don't know where that came from, and I think that's kind of perception. I think they're good luck.
And I think different cultures see them as different things. Some as, like, rebirth, and, like, I think... I shouldn't even speak to it, but I think Egyptian cultures love vultures, right? Or maybe...
Yeah. There's a vulture god in the Egyptian culture. I'm not super well versed in it, so I don't want to talk too much about it.
But I think there are some where it's like bad luck, and they are like an omen, and I think maybe they're associated with death. Okay, which would make sense.
But they're associated, to me at least, they're associated with death, like we talked about, in like a recycling kind of way, like the circle of life, not necessarily like doom and gloom. Like, it's not like the vulture is actually going to be killing the animal. The vulture is just there to recycle its carcass, right?
Right. But, yes. I mean, I can get how you'd think that's gross for you to do. But again, we should just thank the vultures.
Yeah. We don't have to do it because of the vultures.
Exactly.
And then kind of along those lines, one of the things that we've read was people think that when they're circling overhead, they're kind of looking for prey. They might take a pet, they might take a baby or a small child or something like that, which vultures are obviously scavengers, right? Like, do you think you would be worried about your dog being in the yard?
I would definitely not be worried about my dog, especially here in the United States. Like, turkey vultures and black vultures have, like, weaker talons, and they're duller, and their beaks are smaller. Like, you could easily scare off or defend yourself against a vulture, for sure. Now, do they have strong beaks, and can they sometimes break bones, depending on the type of vulture? That sort of thing, definitely. But they are not hunters.
Yeah.
We will talk about it a little bit later, but the Lappet-faced vultures might be the only exception. Most vultures are only going to eat carrion.
Yeah.
But I would not be worried about a vulture taking my baby or my pets.
They're scavengers. They're not, if your dog's out running around, they're not going to go after your dog or your kid who's out playing in the yard or anything, Like, when they're circling overhead, they're not looking for something to catch and eat. They're looking for a dead carcass, some roadkill. That's what they're looking for. They're not looking for your dog in the backyard. Yeah.
Exactly. And also, sometimes when they're circling, they're just catching thermal waves and like soaring. So vultures can fly for really long times. I think up to 7 hours for certain species with hardly flapping.
Without flapping,
they're just soaring. So it's also, if you see them circling, they could just be catching like a wind thermal and kind of floating, for lack of a better word.
A really cool skill that vultures have that I don't think a lot of people realize. Like, next time you're out and you see a vulture overhead, watch how seldomly it flaps. It is amazing that the birds can stay adrift and stay up high that long without flapping their wings. It's amazing adaptation.
Definitely. So there's one, I don't know if people even know this, but if people did know this, this would probably make them not think vultures are as beautiful or clean. But I think it's a really cool fact that kind of has to go along with what we've been talking about, which is vultures will actually urinate on their legs and feet, but it also helps to kill bacteria or parasites and keep them healthy and cleaner. So it sounds dirtier, but also like helps keep them clean.
Yeah, I'm sure the urine is very acidic and it will kill things off on anything that is growing on their legs or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I could see if you didn't know any better, you might think that's a little nasty, but I think that's pretty common of a lot of birds, honestly, not just vultures.
Right, yes. And then also, if they feel threatened, some of them will, vomit these very strong stomach acids, which acts as a deterrent with predators, but also kind of lightens the load so they can escape,
They're
faster.
a little more maneuverable.
Yes. Take off and flight easier. So, I didn't say that very well, but and I probably am not helping. I shouldn't have even told these facts now. They're a little bit gross.
But they're nature's cleanup crew. Like, there's a reason that they're a little bit gross. They're doing something that's gross by eating these dead animals, and we should, like you said, we should thank them for their job and their service, because I wouldn't want to be the one that's doing that. So I'm glad that vultures are here to do it for us and stop the spread of disease and everything like that.
Yes. I just think it's cool. They have these different adaptations to help them.
Yeah.
So we mentioned that there's 23 different vulture species in total, but here at the zoo there are a handful. We have 2 of them here in the Africa department. Mm-hmm. We mentioned the Lappet-faced vultures and the Ruppell's griffon vultures. So there are also Old World and New World vultures. Both the Ruppell's griffon vulture and Lappet-faced are Old World vultures found in Africa.
And that terminology kind of comes from where they're found in the world, right? Like,
yes.
The Old World are going to be found in Africa and Asia, whereas the New World vultures are going to be in North and South America.
Yeah, and there's so many different kinds that we can't talk about all of them, and we were focusing on the ones that we actually care for. But I did want to say that I think turkey vultures are the only vultures that are actually using a sense of smell to find their prey.
As far as I know, I think it's just
carrion.
Turkey vultures, yeah.
So typically vultures are going to use really, really keen eyesight to find something dead on the side of the road or over the savannah, on the savannah while they're flying over it, that sort of thing. But the turkey vultures here in the United States can use a sense of smell.
Which is really unique, and that's a really cool adaptation that they have. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. But I guess we'll start talking about our Ruppell's griffon vultures first. Unfortunately, Ruppell's griffon vultures are critically endangered. We have 2 of them here. Bubba, who is my favorite bird out in the African savanna.
Bubba's your boy, yeah. Yes. Bubba's your boy.
He is 10 years old and he's 16 and a half pounds, which is pretty average. They're usually between 15 and 20 pounds, but I think 20 would be a really big vulture.
Yeah, that'd be
Maybe
a big
female.
vulture,
I don't know we have never had a female Ruppell's vulture here.
I feel like with most vultures, the females are typically a little larger than the males.
So maybe they would be the ones closer to that 20-pound range that you'll read about. But they're found in the Sahel, I think I'm saying that right, region, the area between Sahara in the north and the Sudanian savanna to the south, and also like East Africa. So think Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, South Africa. You can find them there, but they are critically endangered. I believe there's about 22,000 of them left. And unfortunately, the reasons that they are endangered almost have nothing to do with them. Like, it's not their fault. People aren't actually hunting the Ruppell's vultures. They're actually dying from, sometimes poachers are poisoning a kill. So say they kill an elephant for its tusks. They'll actually include poison in that, and so when the vultures come to eat, the vultures will die pretty quickly, and they do not draw the attention of rangers or people who would notice this. So the vultures are up and flying around or moving around these dead carcasses. They're going to be seen a lot more than a bunch of dead vultures on the ground. So it gives poachers a little bit more time to leave the scene of the crime if they poison this carcass afterwards. And then also sometimes farmers will, want to protect their livestock and their living by killing any predators they see on their land that might attack their livestock. So sometimes predators like lions, hyenas, painted dogs are poisoned, and then the vultures come to eat those carcasses, and they in turn are poisoned also.
So like the farmers are going after the lions and the painted dog, whatever it is, and the vultures are just a consequence of that.
Exactly, yeah. So poison is one of the biggest threats, and then unfortunately they're also having issues with power line collisions and being electrocuted. Sometimes they'll try and land on a power line that isn't properly insulated, or crash into it, and even some wind farms, unfortunately, flying into the blades of those giant windmills. Yeah. So those are a lot of the reasons that they're endangered. Of course, habitat loss always plays a role in animals becoming endangered. But they can live about 40 to 50 years, and they typically have about an 8-foot wingspan, so it's much larger than you would think they would have.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder what my arm span is.
Probably about, I feel like it's usually about your height, right? It's supposed to be about your height.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to imagine these tiny little birds that are like 16 pounds with an 8-foot wingspan. But they have beautiful long wings. And my favorite thing about Ruppell's griffon vultures is they're the highest flying bird ever recorded, at about 36 to 37,000 feet. And I believe it's because they were actually seen flying next to an airplane.
Insane.
Or maybe they even had an accident with an airplane and it got, I think that might have been it. Either way, it's like scientifically proven that they were up past 36,000 feet, which of course we would need pressurized oxygen and all of these things. But what I've read is that they actually have a unique hemoglobin in their blood. So it's an altered protein that allows them to fly efficiently despite the lower air pressure and lack of, or less oxygen. So they have like a really special adaptation in their blood and some protein that allows them to fly so high.
That is incredible. Just imagine when you're at soaring altitude in a plane, next time you're on a plane, and think that a Ruppell's griffon vulture could be flying that high next to you if you were in the right space. Yeah.
Yes.
That is
and
wild.
Of course they are mostly soaring, so they're not flapping a ton, but I also read that they can soar about 7 hours, or sometimes they'll fly around for 7 hours a day just in search of food. And the ones that don't, the younger ones that don't have a nest yet or aren't like having babies will fly longer because they aren't like tied back to something. But on that note, these guys are monogamous, so they typically have one partner. As long as they're both living, they'll stay with the same partner, and they nest on like rocky cliffs in large groups. So the Ruppell's griffon vultures are really social, which I think is fun. You'll see them in large groups. They're pretty gregarious. I mentioned Bubba. Did I mention Nino yet?
Not yet.
No, I didn't.
We'll get to him.
I got caught up. But Nino is our 26-year-old male, and he's 15 and a half pounds. But we brought him in to be a friend for Bubba, and these two are adorable. They love to build nests. And
they're two peas in a pod, man.
You can tell that they it's nice having a friend for Bubba. He would hang out with the Lappet-faced vultures, but he definitely seems to tend towards Nino more.
Yeah, ever since Nino came, those two I feel like have been really paired up. Whereas before, Bubba would kind of reluctantly hang out with the Lappet-faced vultures, but I think he's really enjoyed having a companion. Yeah.
Definitely. And so they've recently started, or not recently, but they have a nesting season. So this year recently started like moving sticks to this rocky area on our savanna, which is probably the closest to cliffs that they're going to get in our savanna. And they'll pick little sticks and move them around and push them and push the dirt, and it's just adorable.
And for us, I feel like it just so happens to be right below one of our viewing areas. So I've had a lot of guests the last couple months ask me, what are those two birds doing, Dad? They keep pressing on the ground. And I'm like, well, they're picking up sticks. They're moving them around. They're building a nest down there. But
for the egg, they'll never have. But it's okay. It's still really cute to see. But no, we have two males. So there won't be any eggs. But I just think they're a really cool species. And I know I've talked a lot about Bubba. He's just a really fun bird. He has a lot of personality quirks, which they all do, but like Bubba, like one of my favorite memories of him is he loves enrichment and like exploring things and checking things out. So you can bring out like a colorful bucket and he'll come over and just like tap his beak on it, or like look for if we have any fish juice after we fed our pelicans, we'll give them the fish juice, and he comes over to check it out.
Right
we
up,
have. But we also give them paper mache so they can tear things apart like they would a carcass. And so one time he had a paper mache that was made over a balloon. So imagine the shape of a balloon. And he, instead of ripping it up first, he stuck his head in the hole and like poked his head through the top. So when he lifted his neck up, he was wearing this paper mache and it looked like he was an astronaut because his beak was sticking out of one part, but he had it like perfectly like the collar around his neck and the top was still intact like on his head. And I thought I was going to have to help him get it off, but he got it off on his own, but he was pretty much blind. So he was just like, you know, beak sticking out of one end, and it looked like he was wearing a little helmet or something.
That's hilarious.
But, he also has the cutest sneeze ever.
He does,
He has a really cute sneeze. He's very vocal. They're actually, like, pretty quiet in general, animals, unless you have them near food or a carcass.
Then it can get noisy,
Yes. If you ever have the chance to go to Africa and see, like, a group of vultures, which I think when they're surrounding a carcass, a group of vultures is called a wake, which...
I've heard that one,
Probably doesn't help their their cause either. But it was like the loudest thing I've ever experienced, like that I wasn't expecting. Like all the hisses and the
hissing,
grunts. And
the grunts.
Like,
it's also like the Ruppels especially. They almost do this like really low roar. It's not a roar, obviously, the way you would think of like a lion or anything like that. But like it's almost this roaring, hissing sound. I don't know, like it's menacing. Like if I didn't know any better, it would scare me off a carcass.
And I think because they're one of the smaller ones with the smaller beaks, like they're the ones that come in after like the bigger vultures have kind of opened up the carcasses and they have to fight their way in. So it can be really like they can be really aggressive. All the vultures around the carcass just fighting for their chance at the food. But I wonder if that's why they're louder. Like they have to scare off.
Sense,
they're the smaller guys, so they have to have a louder.
That would definitely make sense. And I do feel like that's another thing we didn't really touch on when we were talking about like the stigmas with vultures. But one of the things you'll kind of hear people say is like they can be aggressive. And vultures, that's a fact. Like vultures can be aggressive, but that's what makes them a good vulture in the wild, right? There can be a lot of competition at these carcasses. It's one dead wildebeest, zebra, whatever it may be on the savannah, and there's a lot of competition from, it could be 100 birds competing over this one carcass. So they do have to be kind of aggressive and earn their place and get in on the carcass before it's gone.
Right,
yeah.
and that's just amongst themselves at a feeding. It's not like they're aggressive in the sense that they like want to go after something that walks by them or is flying under. Or
they're not going after humans or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah, they're just going after each other because they want the food over each other.
Right,
yeah.
and they never actually even hurt each other. They're just like siblings squabbling.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that you brought that up about Bubba with his enrichment, though, because I always felt like with Bubba, he's just such an intelligent, smart bird that we need to try and come up with all the ways we can to occupy him. Because I feel like when he gets bored, he starts to get into some trouble.
Oh, yes, he'll find
That's when
something.
he picks at a drinker, or he's found, like, out in the savanna habitat, he's found, like, the irrigation lines underneath the ground that he's, like, been able to dig up under the mulch. And I'm like, if he's bored out there, he's going to get into some trouble. So we need to keep some ways to occupy him.
Yes, definitely. In the winter, it's fun. We hang, like, goat fur skins for him to reach up and like pull down and tear apart.
Yeah.
And they love paper braids, so we have volunteers helping us out a lot doing paper braids. Just like 3 strips of butcher paper, and we braid it together tightly, hiding their food in like boxes, that sort of thing. But oddly enough, they're kind of scared of more than you would think.
Yeah. Our birds here are spoiled as can be. They've never had to actually feed from a carcass in their life. They're fed very well. So the first couple times we tried to do a carcass feeding with them, they were actually scared of the carcass, which was like the most mind-blowing thing to me ever. I was like,
silly.
Your instinct should kick in, right? But not for ours. They were like, where's the ground meat? Give me the ground meat. I'll take that.
They do love bones, though, and they get whole rabbits here. They get rats. They get chunks of goat. They get oxtail.
Oxtails, necks, knuckles, all different kinds of bones. Yeah, which they really enjoy the bones and tearing the flesh off the bones.
And we recently had another vulture join us, which Mark will talk about in a minute. But he loves carcass feeding, so he's recently shown Bubba, Nino, and Ishtar the way, and they did successfully eat a carcass.
Which is really fun to
We
watch.
gave them half of a goat, and it was so cool. We're like, yay, you're real vultures now, which we've offered to them several times before, and they just were like, I don't know what that is. Please prepare my meal for me.
Exactly. They're finally initiated. Do you feel like there's a specific food item or enrichment item that's Bubba and Nino's favorite?
Oh, gosh.
Anything in particular that sticks out in your mind?
Well, I feel like Bubba really does like the buckets and fish juice, of course.
Yeah, he loves those.
Coming over, I'm trying to think. I haven't done anything like super novel or new for me, at least recently. What do you think?
I feel like as far as food item goes, for the 2 Ruppell's vultures, I feel like they both love the rats.
Okay,
yeah. They really enjoy those rats. They will guard those for sure and gobble them right up. Yeah.
Which is, I've seen them swallow them whole sometimes too, which is incredible. Especially, I think Crash does that sometimes.
Yeah.
Or the most often. But because of, we mentioned their like really strong stomach acid, any of the bones or things that they actually can't break up, or the extra fur that they're consuming, they will spit up in pellets, like an owl, for example, you might be familiar with. So while they do have really strong stomach acids, there are some things they can't digest, but they're really tough in the sense that then they just like make it into a pellet and spit it out.
Yeah, they'll just regurgitate the pellet and they're good to go. Yeah, the fur, like you said, there's a lot of fur and bone bits in there. But yeah.
But they can swallow a rat whole.
Yeah, it's impressive to see, honestly.
But yeah, no, they're so fun to enrich and do things with, and they're pretty good with training, which can be tough because vultures eat, like we just mentioned, they'll swallow something whole. They eat really fast, so it can be hard to like reward them because you only have so much food to give them. But these guys, they're just really cool birds. Mm-hmm. I don't know. They're one of my favorites.
They're a lot of fun. I love them. Yeah. But then we do have our 2 Lappet-faced vultures as well. So our Lappet-faced vultures, they're going to be the larger vultures you see out on the savannah. They're like a dark brown, almost blackish in color, and they've got those large pink bald heads that we were kind of mentioning earlier. Like the Ruppell's vultures, they've kind of got those little bitty white hairs, almost like a grayish head. But the Lappet-faced vultures, they're going to have those large, bald, red heads, which I know people say they're ugly, but I completely disagree. I think it's really pretty, like especially when you can see them close up and you can really get a good look at their coloration. They're stunning.
Yes, definitely. I mean, their heads, like, sometimes even has like a blue color, and like I don't know, they're just really pretty.
Yeah,
you might not be able to see it from far away.
Yeah, I think it changes, depends on like the time of year, the season, breeding season, non-breeding season, that kind of stuff. And then like I noticed it changes in color with the heat as well. They use it as a way to kind of like disperse heat because they've got a lot of blood vessels and everything flowing through there. So it gets a little bit darker red during the summertime when we have a hot day and they're kind of getting rid of some of that heat. But the Lappet-faced vultures, so they're going to be found throughout a huge stretch of Africa, all the way from the Sahara down to South Africa, to the tip of South Africa, basically. They've got a large range in the wild, and they're going to inhabit any areas that basically aren't forested. So they just need an open savanna, like lightly forested area, just so that they're able to, like you had mentioned earlier, like the turkey vultures will scavenge based off scent. Well, these guys, most of the old world vultures, they're going to scavenge based off sight. So they just need to be able to see the land and get a lay of the land to find a carcass. So as long as it's not too densely forested, they're going to be inhabiting that space. They are considered endangered. So we were just looking it up a little while ago, and their numbers are somewhere around 8,000 to 9,000 in the wild, which is pretty discouraging. That's not many birds out there at all, and they face a lot of the same issues, but some different issues as well as the Ruppell's vultures. A lot of human-wildlife conflict that you had mentioned, poisoning of carcasses, electrical lines, birds eating roadkill on the side of the road, and then the vultures get hit by a car because they're feeding on roadkill, all that kind of stuff, unfortunately. But they're also facing a lot of issues with their nesting habitats. So they're tree nesters. They need these nice large acacia trees to nest, and as they suffer habitat loss, there's fewer and fewer spaces for them to nest. Unlike the Ruppell's vultures, where the Ruppell's vultures are, like you mentioned, those colonial nesters where they'll live in these large groups, the Lappet-faced vultures tend to just pair up. So they'll just be two of them as a pair in their nest in an acacia tree in the savanna habitat, for instance. But as those trees become fewer and fewer, and as they lose habitat, there's fewer places for them to nest. And then when there is a place to nest, it becomes a big competition. So yeah, it's like one tree for a nest becomes a competition between 6 vultures to see who can get the tree. You know what I mean? So they have faced a lot of issues like that too, unfortunately. Like you mentioned, habitat loss for most animals right now is going to be probably your biggest issue. But here at the zoo, though, we do have 2 Lappet-faced vultures. We have Ishtar, who I probably have already in this podcast, or will continue to just call him Ish. I just love him referring to him as Ish instead of Ishtar. But Ishtar's 10 years old. He's been at our zoo since our savanna habitat opened. So he's been out in our zoo since 2014. He came to us from Dallas. And then we also have Crash. Crash is the newcomer in our savanna. Crash has only been here since January. And Crash is a 21-year-old vulture. So we had, prior to Crash, we had Ishtar and Ogra. Ogra had been in our zoo for a long time, but she actually got sent based on an SSP. We've talked a lot about the SSPs on previous episodes of this podcast, so I won't dig too deep into it. But an SSP recommendation had recommended that Ogra go elsewhere to breed. So Ogra got sent out, and we got Ishtar in. Like I mentioned, the Lappets tend to do really well in pairs. They pair up. So we figured a companion for Ishtar would be nice. So we brought Crash here. I will say, he's still adjusting a little bit, but overall he's done really well in his first year out in our habitat. Our habitat's just a little bit tricky because we fluctuate a lot seasonally, right? Mm-hmm. Like, these vultures are all going to be from Africa, where it tends to be a lot warmer throughout the year. As much as I might like Cincinnati to be 70 degrees in the middle of winter, it's not 70 degrees here in the middle of winter. So during the winter time, they need to come inside into our warm barn as temperatures allow. But they spend all summer out on the savanna, which Crash did really well out in the savanna in summer. You already mentioned it, but my favorite story of Crash all summer was him teaching our other vultures how to carcass feed. It was like really cool and really rewarding. You could see when we put that goat carcass out, that half carcass, Crash was the only one that was brave enough to come right up to it. And then the others, just from afar, the others watched him for a little while. And I was like, what is he doing over there?
I think you mentioned that they are intelligent birds. And so he is more of like a vulture. You know, they're like, I'm not going to say it right in my head, but like some dogs are just more like people. They're just like people dogs. Like Crash is more of a vulture, where the others are like more secure and like confident around us humans, but he is more secure as a vulture and knows what he's doing more, and like does real vulture things and is less like friendly, but that's because he's intelligent, and you know, vultures wouldn't necessarily always hang out.
He tends
humans.
to kind of keep a respectful distance from us, whereas the others, I think it also, time is a little bit an element too. Like, I think over the next couple years, I'm sure he'll get more and more comfortable here, but yeah, he tends to kind of keep to himself, and unless we really have something that's a high-value item to him, he doesn't really care for us or our interactions too much. He's just a vulture. He's more comfortable doing his own thing, hanging out with the others, whereas the others, anytime we go out in the savanna habitat with anything, they come right up to us. What do you got? What do you got? Like, very curious birds. But it was really fun when we gave out that carcass, because the others were able, like you said, they were able to learn from him. Like, they were able to watch him feed on the carcass and realize, oh, wait, that's a food source. I better get in on this. So the others slowly came around, and by the time we took that goat carcass out, it had been picked pretty clean.
I was so sad I wasn't here to see the final remains of that. Because like we mentioned, in the past, they've just been scared of them. I guess, I mean, they're not using sense of smell, and they aren't seeing these giant carcasses all of the time. Like, their meals are made for them, their size, right? They don't, like... Because in the wild, of course, vultures are going to be opportunistic and eat when they can eat and fill themselves up. But here at the zoo, and you know, a human-managed population, we want to make sure that they aren't getting overfed. We want to make sure that we're able to feed them. Most days, they do have some fast days where they just get a bone and they eat like teeny little pieces of meat off of it and the marrow inside that they can get to. But it allows us to get a better look at them, also to build that relationship, so that when we do need to help them in any way or give them their annual checkup, like, they come near us and we're able to do that, whereas in the wild, they could just gorge themselves and eat when they need to next. So their meals are a little bit different here because of that, but Crash knew that that was not something big and scary. It's just food.
Exactly. Yeah, which is really fun to watch, like, as the others kind of, like I said, learned from him and then started going after it too. But they really had fun with that carcass. It took them a minute for the other three, but they eventually got over their fear thanks to Crash.
But we'll just keep doing it, and I feel like they'll all be all about carcasses by like next spring.
Yeah, definitely. I'll say the more opportunities they have to eat from it, the more and more comfortable they're going to get. But yeah, I mentioned, so Ishtar's 10, Crash is 21. For these Lappet-faced vultures, their lifespan is typically late 40s, early 50s. In human care, they do tend to live a little bit longer than they do in the wild. In the wild, like we mentioned, they don't have to worry about competition for carcasses. Or here at the zoo, whereas in the wild, they have to worry about competition for carcasses. Here, like you said, they're going to have their daily diet prepped and ready for them. They're also going to receive amazing medical care as they do age, which... unfortunately, the vultures in the wild do not have that benefit as well. So, like most animals, they're going to live a little bit longer in human care than they might in the wild. But what I think is really interesting about the Lappets is, since they are one of the larger vulture species in Africa, they tend to be kind of the dominant ones at the carcass. So when you do see a lot of vultures at a carcass, the Lappets, they're so strong and so powerful. If you've ever seen ours, like photos close up on social media or anything, the Lappets have these really huge talons and these really large, sharp beaks. So they're able to tear carcasses open, whereas some of the other smaller vulture species, they can't get into the carcass unless someone else opens it up for them.
Right. They need someone else to do the dirty work.
Yeah, so the Lappets, they're one of those that does the dirty work. They really open the carcass up and really kind of start the feeding frenzy, which I always think is interesting. Like I said, when you see them close up, they're really impressive.
And they all have a role, right? So the Lappets help open it up, but the Ruppels, they have really long necks and smaller heads, so they can get in further, so past the hide, and eat more of like the inside food. So they're actually getting into places that the Lappets wouldn't, because their heads are larger. And it just all helps with getting rid of this decaying carcass, right? So they each have their role, and you'll see different types of vultures. Like we mentioned, there are 23 total, and I think like probably around 9 or so in Africa. So there are a bunch of different ones you're going to see at these feedings. And like when I was in Tanzania, I saw a marabou stork. Like everyone joins in that finds this carcass. They all want to eat, but they each have their own role.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. And even within a carcass, each kind of species has those things that they kind of key in on. Like some vultures are better at eating the guts, others are better at eating the tendons and muscles and fur and all that kind of stuff. So the Lappets, I always think they're interesting because they kind of lead the charge and they kind of get to claim first dibs. But something that's super interesting about the Lappets that you had touched on earlier briefly is the Lappets are actually one of the the very few vulture species that is known to eat live prey. Wow.
Which is wild. I can't imagine them hunting. They do eat live crickets here. We give them for enrichment.
They love live crickets. I was gonna say that. But so the Lappets, they will eat live prey items. So you will see them hunt. It's not very common. Like the vast majority of their diet is still going to be scavenging on carrion, but they've been known to hunt small gazelle, baby impala, like chicks, guinea fowl chicks, rabbits, all this kind of stuff. And I mean, these Lappets are large birds. Like I said, they're going to weigh 15 to 20 pounds, and their wingspan is going to be about 8.5, maybe 9 feet. They're even bigger than the Ruppell's vultures. So that would be an impressive sight to see a Lappet-faced vulture swoop down and grab something.
Right. That's what, so a baby impala or gazelle makes more sense to me because they're probably parked by their mother, like a deer would park their fawn, right? But like hunting a rabbit,
yeah, you've got to be quick for that.
Yeah, and they just don't seem like they're built for that. So we'll have to look up a video of that.
Yeah, and I imagine that's why it only makes a small percentage of their diet, right? The live prey items aren't their first choice, and they probably only do it opportunistically if they see an opportunity arise. But it is really interesting that they're still able and capable of doing that.
Right. Yeah. That's something that you don't think of often with vultures, but that's the reason they're the only ones that do that. And then like another unique vulture that as I was like reading up on all of this stuff, we have a lot of animals that we take care of, and while I learned all of this at some point, sometimes we need little refreshers.
We've both forgotten a lot of information that we've learned over the years.
I don't remember all these natural histories, but do you know about the Egyptian vulture? What's really cool about them?
I know what they look like. I know their coloration is very unique. They're really pretty birds, but teach me, talk to me.
So they actually are one of the very few bird species that are known to use tools. So they'll go off and look for a very specific rock. Usually they'll pick like a smooth stone, and they eat eggs, like ostrich eggs. So they'll carry the rock or carry it back to this nest of ostrich eggs that they find, and lift their head up and throw it, drop it down until the ostrich egg cracks, and then they have this giant meal. But I thought it was really cool that they will go find the perfect rock and then bring it back and use it as a tool.
That's incredible.
Right, especially since they can't use hands or anything.
And that's a testament to how smart these birds are and how much they can learn.
And ostrich eggs are really hard.
Yeah.
They have to work probably really hard. I cannot talk to them to crack these eggs, because ostrich egg shells, I don't know, a couple millimeters thick.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Not like a fragile chicken egg.
We give our ostrich eggs as enrichment sometimes to our lions and our painted dogs. And I've seen our painted dogs, which are 75, 80-pound dogs, they really struggle sometimes to break an ostrich egg.
Right.
So the fact that this vulture is able to do it, that is very impressive.
Yes. The Egyptian vultures are definitely highly intelligent. And they'll use sticks together and roll wool, and then they'll use it as a lining in their nests.
Oh, interesting.
Very cool birds, for sure.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always fun for us to kind of come up with enrichment items, kind of along those lines. Yeah, which I always enjoy. You mentioned the Lappets. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, they love the live crickets.
Yes.
That's something they both have really taken to. So my favorite enrichment item to them is to give them we give them these small kind of cardboard boxes with live crickets in it, and then they need to tear apart the cardboard box like they might tear apart a carcass or something in the wild. So they're tearing apart the cardboard box. They get all these crickets, which the crickets scatter once the box opens, and then you'll see them trotting around outside in the savannah or trotting around inside when they're in the barn catching all these crickets, which is really funny.
Yes. Yeah, but they all have these really special things. The turkey vulture can smell. The Lappets will actually hunt every once in a while. Egyptian vultures use tools. Ruppell's vultures are the highest flying bird in the world. So many incredible things.
Yeah, I know.
I hope people love them. Like I said, I don't think we have to do as much convincing for people, but I bet they don't know that they actually are doing so much good. Not as many people know.
And I'm glad you brought up the Egyptian vulture, because if you're someone that thinks vultures are ugly, go and Google a picture of an Egyptian vulture.
Or a king vulture.
King vultures, too. Those are stunning animals. Mm-hmm. They are absolutely beautiful.
Yes, definitely. The king vultures have almost like a rainbow face. It's purple and orange and yellow and just really cool colors. they're all pretty.
I know, I think so too. And even around here, I love our turkey vultures and our black vultures that you'll see around here. Yeah, like I think in our area, kind of like Ohio River Valley region, we have the two species. I think turkey vultures are a little more common than the black vultures are, but they're still pretty easy to tell apart, right? The turkey vultures are going to have the pinkish reddish heads, whereas the black vultures, they're not feathers on their head. They're bald as well, but they do have those black heads.
Skin.
Yeah, black skin on their heads.
Yeah, their heads are so much smaller than the vultures that we work with. I feel like that ours are definitely cuter. I won't try and argue that.
I'm super biased, but I agree with you.
But hopefully if you guys come to the Cincinnati Zoo and watch the bird show, you can see they have black vultures in that show, and you'll see a huge difference in like size and look from the African species. But
yeah, Boris over there at the bird show, he's a lot of fun. He's a really cool bird. If you haven't seen the show, he exhibits some really cool behaviors in that.
Yes, that's one of my favorite things here at the zoo too, is to see the bird show. It's so good. We should have had them talk to us too about Boris.
We can always do another vulture episode. That would only make me really happy. So.
Well, overall, I think we've shared a lot of awesome vulture stuff. I hope everyone knows that they're really important. And they are struggling all over the world. There's been about a 90% decrease in vulture populations in the last 3 decades, I believe. So they are facing a lot of struggles. I don't know so much that turkey vultures and black vultures, thankfully, because I don't think they're being poisoned. And sadly for other animals, there's a lot more roadkill these days. So there's a lot more food for the turkey vultures and black vultures. But overall, vultures in general are definitely struggling.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you don't have anything else that you wanted to add.
I got nothing for vultures. I love our vultures. I hope people can come and see them here and get a good look at our vultures. Like I mentioned, this episode's going to come out in late October, early November. So at that point, probably our vultures are going to be inside. We do face the Cincinnati weather during the winter season. So our vultures come into our nice warm barn because they're an African species. So they won't be visible to the public throughout the winter time. But come spring, they'll get back out on our savanna habitat, and you'll be able to come and check them out, check out the bird show, and kind of see what different vulture species we have here. But they're all really unique, like we talked about. They've all got really special adaptations, and they're really pretty, for sure.
Definitely. You have trivia today?
I have trivia for you,
I
Jenna.
have one trivia question for you.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I want to go first.
Okay, go ahead.
It's not that great, but I learned something today that I definitely had never known before. Vultures are more closely related to what type of bird than any other bird of prey?
Than any other bird
And
of
it
prey.
just fits for you.
It fits for me in particular?
Yeah.
You're giving me hints, and I don't even know it. Bird of prey.
And it shocked me.
I feel like they've got really, like, visually, they always reminded me of eagles. I would say eagles.
But it's not a bird of prey.
Oh, it's not a bird of prey.
Well, I don't know if I made that clear, but they're more closely related to blank than to any other bird of prey, which you would assume.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant like they were more closely related to this bird of prey than any other bird of prey.
No,
okay.
What bird are they most closely related to, I guess, is what I should
If you
ask.
think it's fitting for me, then I'm probably going to say a stork.
It is!
A stork!
That does not seem right to me.
No, I would never have guessed that.
No.
I would have thought surely they're closer related to eagles or hawks or something like that than a stork, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know the science behind that, but I just
you want to talk about a pretty bird.
Yeah.
Our saddle-billed stork, Icky, I mean.
We'll have to do an episode on her.
We're going to have to do an Icky episode one day.
Mark's obsessed with Icky. She is a great bird, but she's definitely Mark's favorite, and I think you're her favorite as well. She'll like prance after you out on the savannah.
I mean, I like to think so, but I'm not going to take credit for that.
Okay, you can do trivia for me.
All right, Jenna, this is a belated birthday present for you, this trivia. I think I've got something that you're really going to enjoy here. We mentioned that this has been like our spooky season kind of string of episodes where we're talking about snakes and spiders and vultures as we lead into Halloween time. Birthday's right before Halloween. Halloween's your favorite holiday of the year. So this is actually Halloween trivia.
Oh, wow.
It's not animal related. It's not vulture related. We just got Halloween. This is your birthday present.
Thanks. Yeah. Wow, I'm so excited.
So we got Halloween trivia. I'm curious to see what you know about this holiday. It's all joking stuff, but as per usual with trivia. But first question, obviously when people think about Halloween, the first thing, at least for me personally, the first thing I think of is the candy.
I knew you were going to say that.
According to USA Today, what is the most popular Halloween candy in the United States?
Reese's Peanut Butter Cup?
Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, 1 for 1. Let's
Probably read
go.
that somewhere.
Reese's Peanut Butter Cup is the most popular candy in the U.S. for Halloween, followed by M&M's in second, and Skittles are in third.
Okay, I would have said M&M's or Starburst probably next if it weren't that.
Oh, okay.
You know, I like Reese's, but they're not my favorite.
What's your favorite go-to? Like, when Lincoln goes out trick-or-treating this year, what are you going to steal? What are you going to steal from his bucket?
Oh, I love a good Twix or a Butterfinger.
Oh, Twix is great.
Yeah. Peanut M&M's.
Specifically the peanut M&M's, not the regular M&M's?
I like regular ones, but
Okay.
I'd probably pick peanut M&M's.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not a huge candy person, I won't lie. Those are probably my top 3 that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, Twix is a great one. Twix is up there for me. Snickers, too. I love
Snickers,
Snickers,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Not Reese's, though.
I mean, I'm the same way. I like Reese's. I'm
Yeah.
never going to say no to a Reese's cup. But I wouldn't, like, seek it out, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, number
This is
2.
fun.
1 for 1 so far. Number 2. This is, I feel like, always a hot debate among Halloween time. The question isn't, do you like candy corn, but it's candy corn related. Do you like candy corn, though?
No.
I don't understand
It's
the
like
candy
one of those
corn
things where if
craze.
it's in front of me, I'll pick up a piece and I'm like, no, why did I eat that? It wasn't good.
Yeah, I'm never going to reach and grab
No.
a piece of candy corn. No, I don't really understand it. But people will ride or die
Yes.
for candy corn, yeah.
Yes.
There's
for
always
sure.
a fall topic. So how much candy corn is produced in the U.S. each year?
Wow. And like poundage?
It's in pounds. It's a lot.
How much of it goes to the landfill?
I
Are
don't-
people buying it just for like a decoration?
A decoration
It is really
and
cute.
throw it out.
I don't. You know I'm gonna do awful at this because I have to guess a number. 3 million pounds.
3 million is actually not a horrible guess, but you are low.
Low?
You're low. It's between 25 and 30 million pounds produced every year.
That was
just
not a
candy
good
corn.
guess. That
But
is,
you were in millions, so you're at least in the right territory, right?
that
You're
is
in-
so much.
That's a lot of candy corn. They estimate that it's about 9 billion pieces of candy corn.
Wow.
Wild.
Unnecessary.
I don't know who eats it,
Right?
honestly.
Oh.
No disrespect to any listeners out there that are munching away on candy corn. Like, to each their own. I'm glad that you're finding joy out of it, but it's just candy corn's not for me. Yeah.
Yeah, not my favorite.
All right. Question number 3. I think I could be wrong about this. I think you're a haunted house person, right? You enjoy going to haunted
I
houses.
didn't go to a single one this year. I'm so
Oh,
bummed.
that's
Anyways.
tragic.
But yes, I do love them.
That's tragic. You are a haunted house person, though. But so, where is the world's longest haunted house?
Oh. Longest?
World's longest haunted house. I'll give you a hint. It's in the U.S.
Is it New Orleans?
Not New Orleans. New Orleans isn't a bad guess though, 'cause that's a
Yeah, that's
spooky.
pretty-
That's
yeah.
a spooky town, right? Like I feel
Yeah.
like New Orleans for Halloween time has to be a lot of fun. But it's actually right here in Ohio,
Oh, no way.
which I would not have guessed. Yeah. So depending on which like metric you want to look at, I guess the longest. They're both in Ohio. The longest indoor haunted house is in Canton, Ohio.
Okay.
It's called the Factory of Terror.
Never heard of it.
Never been. I'm probably going to stay away. But then the largest indoor-outdoor haunted house is also in Ohio, in Lewisburg, Ohio. It's called the Haunted Cave.
Oh, I've been there.
No way!
Yeah, I didn't know it was like the longest, but it's definitely the best one I've ever been to.
Really?
Yeah,
The
it's in
Haunted
like
Cave.
a real cave, and it was really good. Yeah, my friends took me, unless there's a different haunted cave. My friends took me there. I think it's like an hour and a half drive or so.
Okay.
Does that sound right?
That sounds right. Yeah, Lewisburg. Yeah, it should be about an hour
Yeah,
and
for
a
my
half from here.
birthday
Yeah.
once, and it was so fun because I love to be scared. So they made me a hat that said, "It's my birthday, scare me," and like glow in the dark puffy paint. Shout out to
That's
Caitlin.
incredible.
Yes, it was
That's
so
incredible. But the Haunted Cave, I'm a little bit of a scared about that kind of stuff. So I'm probably not going to stray into the Haunted Cave or the Factory of Terror. But it's cool that the longest one's right here in Ohio.
Yeah, it's perfect for me.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, last question I got for you here. I know for a fact you're a huge horror movie person. You love scary movies. I feel like you've seen all of them. But
Not the crazy horror. Just like scary thrillers.
scary movies, like Halloween movies.
Yeah.
So, what is, according to like the money it made in the box office, what is the most successful horror movie ever made?
Oh. Is it recent? Or is it like older?
What would you consider recent?
The last 10 years.
Yes.
So The Strangers?
It's not The Strangers.
Oh, man.
Do you want a hint or no?
Yes.
It's about a Stephen King book.
Oh, is it Dr. Sleep?
Not Dr. Sleep.
Oh, jeez.
It's It.
Oh, duh.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I don't know why that didn't come to mind. That's like a really well done movie.
I will say, I'm not even like a scary movie person, but it's just a good movie in general. Yeah,
like the acting, the
I
actors
enjoyed
are
that
really
one.
good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I haven't watched that this season yet. So
You still got a couple days.
Get
Get it in before Halloween.
Oh,
but yeah,
man.
it made $700 million in the box
Wow.
office. The second most successful horror movie is a classic, The Sixth Sense.
Oh, The Sixth Sense. Okay.
Sixth Sense, yeah.
That's like a psychological thriller.
Yeah, it's kind of spooky though, right?
Yeah. I just like
It's about ghosts. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. You haven't seen The Sixth Sense yet. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I guess there's like so many different like scary versus horror versus
Yeah.
like I don't know how they like made that list. Do you know what I mean? What they included?
What's
in it.
considered a horror movie? Yeah, I know what
definitely.
you're saying. Yeah.
Oh, that was fun.
But,
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, I know. Little Halloween time. I know. What are you gonna be for Halloween? Do you have an outfit picked out?
I'm like really slacking on so much this year. I've been so busy. I do not have a costume this year. Last year I was a tree. My son was an owl.
That. Yeah, I remember that one.
And I like made this vow to myself that I was going to make his costumes as long as possible. And this year, so I made it 2 years.
You made it.
I made him 2 costumes this third year.
Being a parent is tough.
It is.
There's a lot going on right now.
A store-bought Triceratops.
There's no shame in a store-bought Triceratops.
Really
I need to see some pics of it. Yeah,
It's just,
I bet
like,
he's gonna be adorable.
Fun to make the costumes, so I like wanted to do it, but it didn't happen this year. No haunted houses. Still need to watch a few scary movies, but
Hey, you got a couple days.
yes. Also, speaking of being a parent and behind on a lot of things, I do have a what can I do, but I'm going to read a lot of it.
Okay.
So I haven't like done tons of research on it yet, but it's new to Cincinnati.
Okay, teach me. What can I do? What can I do to be a better steward of the earth, a better citizen? Talk to me.
Okay, so this is mostly for people who are in our more Cincinnati area.
Okay.
Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. There are specific counties. If you're in Butler County, Claremont County, Hamilton or Warren County in Ohio, Dearborn County in Indiana, or Boone, Kenton, or Campbell County in Kentucky. This one's for you.
I'm glad they included the Kentucky folks in that, because you know I'm a Kentucky guy.
It's specifically for Ruppell. So, and other cities might have this program happening or like going to happen. But starting in November, Ruppell customers will be able to recycle hard-to-recycle items like full egg cartons, packing peanuts, and plastic grocery bags, and a new orange, specifically orange hefty, and it's called Renew bags.
Okay.
So I believe you purchase them, and then once the orange bag is full, you tie it up and you place it outside, or place it inside your Ruppell recycling bin that you already have, and they will send those orange bags to a specialized recycler, and use those materials to create new and useful products.
Oh, awesome.
So basically right now it's really difficult to recycle certain things.
Yeah.
And you always wonder, at least I do, is this supposed to go in the recycling? What will happen? Like, is this actually being recycled? Even no matter how much research I do, I still question it. I'm like, what, can I recycle this number 5 again? But this new program will specifically be working towards, like, recycling, making it easier for people to recycle these hard to recycle things. Because in the past, you'd have to go to, like, a special recycling center or, like, Kroger or Meijer. Some places will recycle like the plastic bags, that sort of thing. But Kroger stores will start selling orange hefty Renew bags in November. The exact start selling date will vary by location, and they'll also be available online at Kroger.com. And they will come in boxes of 20 and cost between $10 and $12. And you can also have businesses order commercial sized bags from Ruppell. And so things that can go in these orange bags, like in the past, chip bags have not been recyclable.
Yeah.
Now they are. So chip bags, dry mix bags for cereal, cake mix, that sort of thing. Candy wrappers, which will be perfect after Halloween.
Perfect
if you guys want to start
time,
saving them until these orange bags come out in just a different bag, you could. Granola wrappers, like the salad and cheese bags, like shredded cheese. So many
or like
things.
the pre-made salads, those kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I throw all of that away currently. And then like food storage bags, I believe they mean like Ziploc. And then like the plastic wraps that come on like paper towel rolls.
Okay.
And so yeah, there are plenty of things that can't go in there. And you have to be careful, like batteries or food and liquid from coffee grounds, that sort of thing. Cans and glass, but you would hopefully be putting those in your regular recycling.
No, that's incredible, though. I'm glad you brought this one up because I had no idea about this, and B, I always want to try and find some way to recycle those like single-use plastics, right? Those single-use plastics are some of the things that are most harmful in the environment and that you see kind of accumulate in different spots in the environment. A lot of times they end up in the ocean, all over. So like the fact that we're able to find a place to recycle those in the tri-state area, that's amazing.
And we don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
You just have to buy the special bags, which is truly like a huge difference. For someone who really cares, I still don't do the recycling that I could because it's so much extra time and effort, and I just don't have time to do that. But now I can buy these bags and set them in my recycling can like I normally would, and it's like no extra. But essentially, they are it's called the Hefty Renew program, and it is available to 1 million households in the United States, and already has helped divert over 2,500 tons of hard-to-recycle plastics from landfills. So yeah, everyone in the area, or just in general, it sounds like it's already taking place in other parts of the country. Check out Rumpke's website or Kroger to order your bags. You can visit heftyrenew.com to learn more about them. But yeah, like I said, I'm reading you guys a lot of this because I don't actually know it and I haven't started it yet. But I saw it and I was like, this is the perfect, what can I do?
That is perfect, yeah.
I'm really excited about making recycling easier, less landfill stuff. So.
Yeah, that's amazing, yeah.
That's all I've got for you.
If you're in the tri-state, definitely check that out. I'm going to get in on that. I'm glad you mentioned this. I had no idea, and I'm definitely going to get in on that.
Yes, me too.
Love to be a part of that, for sure. Awesome. Yeah. And we should say, not necessarily like a what can I do, but something that I did want to touch on earlier in the vultures. Completely missed it and forgot to mention it. But something that our zoo does for vultures, which is amazing, is support Vulpro.
Oh, yes.
Which, yes, a lot of the funds we make from our hippo tours. Fiona, obviously she's world famous. She's done great things for our zoo, conservation around the world. For our hippo tours, part of the funds go to Vulpro, which is a conservation organization specifically dedicated to saving vulture species. So that's something that our zoo contributes a lot of money to, and it's a fantastic organization that does a lot of great work.
Yes, you can get a ton of info there, and they are doing a ton of work saving vultures from being when they are electrocuted but alive. Sometimes they can amputate their wings and save them, and they work on like a rehabilitation program, so they send them back into the wild, taking orphans, of course, all sorts of things. But yeah, thanks to Fiona and the hippos, we make so much money. We give half of it to hippo conservation, of course, but because we don't do vulture tours here, but we're so passionate about vultures in the Africa department, we're like, we could do half of this tour money for vultures. So the zoo does back vulture conservation through our behind the scenes program. So
yeah, absolutely, yeah. Like you said,
or you can come to a hippo tour and you're helping out vultures.
Come to the hippo tour, there you go. But yeah, if you're interested in learning more information, Vulpro has a fantastic website with a lot of good resources on it, and you can see the incredible work that they do.
Yeah, specifically for African species.
Yeah.
Vulpro is. But.
Yeah.
All right, end of spooky season.
End of spooky season. I'm sorry, Jenna. I know that you're about to go into a stage of depression now that it's over.
I didn't get to do all the things, Mark.
You're supposed to double it next year.
Right, definitely. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. We hope you have a fantastic day.
Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this session just as much as we did. Until next time, we'll be back soon.